Attracting foreign investment to Africa is a constant struggle. Some Africans in the diaspora believe they are better placed to create more investment linkages between Africa and the rest of the world. Recently, I spoke with Amira Woods, co-director Foreign Policy in Focus at the Institute of Policy Studies here in Washington, D.C. A native of Liberia, Amira says she is committed to advancing the cause of Africa.
My role as an African here in the U.S. is to understand well how the U.S. functions, particularly in the area of foreign policy, to understand how policies are set, and to really represent, to be an advocate for the issues of concern to the peoples of the African world in all that I do regarding U.S. foreign policy. I think that is a critical part of a role of someone within the diaspora today.
Now, how do you seek to accomplish that through the Institute for Policy Studies here in Washington, D.C.?
So we are a progressive think tank, the Institute for Policy Studies. It is very focused on changing U.S. policy to make the U.S. a more responsible global player. And so within that, I, again, do writing, analysis, advocacy on U.S. foreign policy, but particularly with an emphasis on U.S. Africa policy. I think it is critical to be able to advocate for key things like debt cancellation, like fair trade, like support for small farmers, and these critical elements of a social development in Africa that are impacted by U.S. foreign policy.
What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of fighting for Africa away from Africa?
Well, some of the advantages are that you have Africa in your heart. So it is almost like an obsession. You have a familiarity with the continent, with the people. You have contact with the people on the ground. Clearly, the disadvantage is the distance from home.
You see yourself as an advocate of Africa and the different African causes. Do those in Africa, particularly those in leadership, see you and the likes of you as important in advocating for Africa away from the continent?
That's a difficult question, Vincent. I think there may be some that do, that see alliance with advocates on this side of the Atlantic as critical, and we're able to work together to move an agenda, for example, on debt cancellation, very much linked with government officials. I think there are also opportunities, especially with the African Union, to link forces and to be allies on particular advocacy agendas. I think there are others that find it difficult, quite frankly, and that are in a rhythm of reaching out to quite expensive lobbying firms here in the Washington area to do their bidding.
Amira, what do you wish the African leaders would know about the role the diaspora can play, and particularly knowing how the other regions of the world have made use of those of their own who are in the wider diaspora?
I think, it is the African continent's sleeping giant, really, when you think about the diaspora. So if you think about the tremendous resource, not only in finances and remittances, but also in advocacy skills, expertise, contacts, and knowledge that is in this diaspora, I think it works to the benefit of the continent to be able to join forces, to work in solidarity, to advance a more realistic, a more responsible U.S. engagement with the continent.
Now, what gives you the passion, not only for your country, but just for the entire continent?
It's the people. It's the dynamism of the people of the African world. It is the creativity, the resilience, the power of people that have brought real change, just even in my lifetime, but throughout history. And I think that often the contributions of the African world are marginalized in our history books, if they're there at all. Often they're not there.
Thank you very much, Amira.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Vincent.
Yeah, great African.